us to talk about hemp.
Yeah, can you hear us, Jacque? Let's just get a quick confirmation you're on the call with us and you're able to respond.
You're
I
here,
did the
Jacque.
recording thing.
Yeah, thank you, Cassie. Jacque, I am trying. There, we unmuted you.
Okay. Hello, hello. Can you hear us, Jacque?
Hey, Jacque.
You. Hey, I don't know if your mic is working. I can't hear you right now, but we should be able to hear you.
Yeah.
No, it's frozen. Can you hear us,
see.
Jacque?
Something I can give you some quick tech support on, Jacque, is on the bottom left of your screen if you're using a computer. It says audio and it has a little arrow. Click that arrow and change out what your microphone is, because your microphone will be listed there and it might be two microphones, one working and one not working. Just switch those out.
That is not the same on my computer.
So we're going to hope we can get this resolved, but just some quick background to talk about who Jacque is. As mentioned earlier during the convergence in my presentations and whatnot, I attended Fairhaven College, which is affiliated with the Outback Farm, which we've also learned a bit about this weekend. And at Fairhaven College, you have the ability to pick your concentration. So what that means is you can essentially design your degree. So while I was there, I designed mine. I'm also talking with Jacque and trying to do a technical fixing things simultaneously, but I focused on regenerative agriculture and permaculture and used the Outback Farm as my classroom in a way to learn about these principles in a more personal way. Jacque, however, focused his entire concentration on hemp and hemp policy, where we are going in terms of the policy relating to hemp, its uses, and of course, all the emerging industry that we are witnessing come out all over the world right now, but especially in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon and whatnot. So it looks like he's grabbing a pair of headphones. And we'll get
David,
this.
do you mind coming off video in the meantime? Turning your video on?
Oh, sorry, I did not realize my video was not coming in. I was texting him while trying to troubleshoot. But yeah, so it will be exciting to hear. I think, if I'm correct, Jacque is going to talk to us the different uses that hemp can achieve if we are to switch to growing hemp on larger scales versus timber, cotton, and he'll go into more of those details in a little bit. But I know over this past weekend, we've had some attendees that have expressed a great interest in hemp and involvement. So it'll be great to kind of get this discussion going, because hemp is a resource waiting to be utilized on multiple fronts, whether it's food, resources, material, building, and we live in great climates to be growing hemp. So that's kind of the initial introductions. Does anyone have experience personally growing hemp to be processed into a material to be used on site or the homestead? No.
I have a quick story. I was given a call from someone down the road in Oklahoma and said, yeah, we have all this hemp and it's illegal. And they're saying we have to remove it. And there's kind of a wild hemp that grows in Oklahoma. And so we went down there and they turned out processing it and weaving it. So I just came down to look at it. But I thought that was pretty cool. Someone took something that was illegal and turned it into, I think they made some sort of basket out of it. And they were selling them at the markets. Absolutely. And I think right now we're not seeing a big embracing of the industrial of hemp for a lot of reasons. But I know right now I'm in Idaho. And for instance, in Washington State, hemp has been legalized to be growing for a variety of reasons. But there was a truck driver just driving from Washington to Colorado. And when he was going through Idaho, he got pulled over and they were treating his cargo as if it were drugs, even though, of course, it was all hemp stalks and there was nothing related to
recreational or the female aspect of the marijuana plant. So it just goes to show you we have so far to go in terms of our policy, and not only on the federal level, but also the state level, because if we're creating this good, we're going to be faced with a lot of issues being able to transport it from point A to point B if the state in between you is going to attempt to treat it as a narcotic or whatnot. So definitely an interesting time. So I'm going to request that Jacque, rather than...
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now? Is it
Yeah,
working?
there you are.
Oh, perfect.
Yay!
All right. Excellent. Awesome. Well, yeah. Hemp is, as most of us know, the most vital piece in the green revolution that we can use. It's easy to grow. It requires little, no pesticides, all that sort of stuff. And that's really what grabbed my attention at the Fairhaven College, was to find out more and why we're not using it, and learn a little bit about our history of hemp and how it's been integrated in American society and then taken away from that, and why those happened throughout the 240 years of our America. And it really came down to the fact that it was the timber and the petrochemical companies and the pharmaceutical companies that lobbied against the use of hemp, because they knew it could help people be self-sustaining, and they knew that it required little to nothing from large corporations. Anybody could grow hemp, anybody could ret hemp, anybody could break it down into fibers and make rope out of it. Not everybody could make clothing out of it. It is a little difficult to break that down, but it was still very common, and there was people who knew trade secrets, and essentially that was all lost over the last 80 years of hemp prohibition, and now we're finally getting to see it come back into light. And the light that we see hemp in right now, or cannabis, is in mostly recreational cannabis, or CBD, which of course is a great start to raising awareness of hemp, but at the same time it's not the full green crop that we need. They're only using the flowers of it and the buds, and these stalks are going to waste. And so there's a lack of processing and a lack of different options to break down the hemp and the hemp stalk, and there's also a lack of farmers. And just to reply to that comment that you'd rather wear flax than hemp, there's actually new technologies out there that break down hemp into a proper soft fiber material that, the stereotype that hemp's itchy and it doesn't stretch and, all these things actually is changing these days. Europe, specifically Eastern Europe, has more technology advancements. It can be softer than cotton when broken down properly, and they actually have different things in China that use ultrasound to break down the hemp, and that produces actually a very soft fiber material. They can also use different chemicals, which is not so sustainable, but there's actually a lot of technology emerging from it. Most profitable use of hemp right now would be hemp seeds. That's what Canada has been growing it for, is for protein substitutes and hemp oil and that sort of stuff. But I mean, long term, in the grand picture of things, the most profitable thing from hemp can be hemp biofuel, as Henry Ford used in his Model T cars. And Henry Ford was a huge advocate for hemp in the early prohibition of it in the 30s and 40s, and General Motors saw that as a threat because they didn't have access to the same technologies he was using. They didn't know how he was making car panels and car doors out of it and using it to, well, they did know how, but they wanted to be in more relation with the petrochemicals and all that stuff. So it's been a long fight to get hemp to where it needs to go, and it's still on its way. But right now I actually have a friend who has a company called Hemp Ventures, which is a hemp decortication processing facility, and he's going around the corn belt of America and looking to find investors to build. There's currently one being built in Sydney, Nebraska. There's one that's looking to be built in Minnesota, southern Minnesota, and then there's one looking to be built in Greeley, Colorado right now, which is close to me. So hemp is about to take off. It's still another 5 to 10 years out from, being a commercial product. So Hemp Herd is the woody material on the outside. So hemp's broken into two parts. It's the fiber and the herd. And to get it, the traditional way to get it to separate is to let it rot in the fields, which you chop it down, leave the tap roots in the soil. And those actually help rebuild topsoil. And the mycorrhiza that forms with the roots is able to stay there. You don't need to irrigate hemp soil. It's very sustainable and all that. So when you let it rot in the fields, you are adding nutrients to the topsoil for the next years to come. And when you let it rot in the fields, you usually let it air rot, and that helps break down the water content of it, makes it easier to use for processing materials. And so the hemp herd is the woody outside, and or the woody inside, and the fibers are on the outside, so they're easier to break down and just split. And the herd is used for hempcrete, which is the most common use of it these days. There's actually a house in Bellingham called the Highland Hemp House that I worked with. They're a great foundation. The owner's name is Pam Bosch. She is amazing. She is literally the hemp grandma. She's pushing for hemp sustainability in the Pacific Northwest. She's working with different indigenous tribes all across the state. So hemp needs to come back as a tool everyone can use. It shouldn't be regulated just to certain people or certain companies like Monsanto, who are honestly, they're trying to patent certain seeds. There's a fight right now going on in the US government for whether to regulate hemp further. The 2018 Farm Bill removed hemp or anything under 0.3% THC from the Controlled Substance Act. And now they're looking to push that further to 0.03% THC, which is ridiculous in my opinion. And with the people I've talked with, anything under 2% THC, in a 15-foot hemp plant isn't going to come up. There's no way someone's going to be able to use that for recreational purposes. But the government is trying to push hemp to this limit where it can only be used off of patented seeds. And so that's a huge issue, like we've seen in the past in the last 20 years with Monsanto doing that with wheat, soy, all these things. And hemp is actually way more sustainable in the way that it doesn't use pesticides, or it doesn't require a lot of pesticides. It's a natural herbicides. The deep tap roots can suppress other weeds that are coming up in farms. It can be used in your garden even. You can throw a couple plants down in some area that has high weeds, and after a couple months, it'll suppress them with their tap roots. And you can do that early in the season, March, April, and pull them out and let the tap roots go. Because hemp really only needs up to 90 days to fully mature, depending on the variety. So if you give it 60 days, the roots are going to be established, and it's essentially the rest of the growth is going to be from the stalk. So it's a very useful plant. Right now, you might be starting to see hemp plastics or hear about hemp plastics. The main thing with hemp plastics is they're actually not 100% hemp. Hemp plastics are usually a mix of recycled plastics and pressed hemp herd, broken down hemp herd into a starchy powder almost. And then it's molded into whatever form you use. I know a lot of people who have 3D printers that use hemp plastic, and that stuff is not super sustainable, but more sustainable than regular plastics. It gives recycling a bigger market, because right now people say, oh, recycling doesn't work, they just trash it anyway. But it can work, and we can make it more durable. We can make stronger plastics that last longer, so you don't need to toss them as often. Reusable plastics, reusable water bottles, all these things that you can still buy daily, but then it doesn't break down. You don't get the BPAs or the BPS from it as much. Then that's a huge thing that the petrochemical companies are trying to stop, because they love their 100% plastic bottles and all that stuff. Lego is actually working to remove itself from petrochemical plastics by 2030, and they've looked at hemp as a huge option for that. Thing is, it's still going to have petrochemicals in it because it has to be mixed. That's a huge thing that people are like, well, is it even biodegradable? Well, it breaks down into microplastics, but still those microplastics are going to be around for a certain amount of time. the lifespan of them has not been fully determined yet. Some people say it can break down in 90 days. I don't think that's possible. I mean, unless you have high acidic soil that you're burying it in or something like that. I'm really not sure because the research hasn't been done on that, but hemp plastics are a step in the right direction. So when you talk to people with recycling plastics, be like, are you mixing them with hemp starch? Are you mixing them with cornstarch? And cornstarch has become a super popular biodegradable plastic as well. They call it compostable because when the microplastics break down, they don't last as long, and they're smaller to see, but they still do exist on a scale. They're a little healthier for the earth, but not hugely. My favorite thing about hemp, though, I hope you all know what phytoremediation is, but if you don't, that's the use of a supercrop to absorb toxins and minerals out of soils. Hemp essentially is a superconductor crop. It can remove mercury, high mercury in soils. It can remove, I guess, uranium, because at Chernobyl, they let feral hemp go wild, and it's been depleting the toxicity levels in the soil. Every time hemp grows and dies, the levels of radiation deplete by like a super small percentage. But the nice thing about hemp is you don't really have to worry about it. You don't have to actively propagate it or anything. It just grows on its own. It's a very cool plant in that sense. Big thing I'm sure most of you hear about is hemp paper versus timber. And hemp paper is far more superior. That's why the timber industry was a huge component against lobbying against hemp in the early 1900s. Hemp roughly has 70 to 85% cellulose in its plants, while timber has about 20 to 30% cellulose. And the cellulose is what's used for the paper. It's like the most durable, or not durable, it's the most easily broken down part of the plant and easily made into pulp. And hemp has far more of that. Over a 20-year period, for example, 1 acre of hemp can produce as much paper as 5 to 10 acres of timber. And you look at the height comparison, in 1 year, a hemp plant can grow up to 15 feet tall. Depending on the tree, you're not going to get that exact same growth. So let's see what this says. But yeah, it is the most vital and important crop that we have right now. We just need to continue pushing it or advocating for it and letting people know that it's not the same as marijuana. It's not the same as CBD. It's a huge plant that requires little to no pesticides. About 50% of the water that cotton requires. Cotton uses 25 of the world's pesticides grown across the whole globe. Hemp uses a small fraction of that, if you even need them. And the only thing you would really need pesticides for is protecting against aphids and maybe caterpillars if you have that in your fields.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's
Jacque.
yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we have a presentation in 4 minutes, so I don't know if there were just a couple more points you want to make, or if you wanted to take the remaining time for any last minute questions. Up to you. And we can also connect your contact info with people to follow up as well if there's further discussion to be had.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to take some questions. Just a quick shout out to my website, which is called hempdesign.us. Right now it's working with Hemp Ventures, my buddy's company who's building the decortication machines. And right now we're looking for people who have high sewing skills or looking for machinery that can produce t-shirts and ropes and animal bedding and stuff like that to use, because there is an influx of hemp being grown across the US that no one's being able to use or process. Like I know Oregon had a huge problem with that last year. Nebraska's kind of touching on that. Colorado, most of the people are still growing CBD. Washington, most of the people are still growing CBD, but there is an influx of industrial hemp that we're looking to use. And so if you know anybody growing fields of industrial hemp, let me know. I can type my email down here and y'all can shoot me an email.
That'd be great if you could type your email and your website. And yeah, Jacque, I want to thank you once again for willing to, I know it was a quick conversation, but thank you for taking the time to join us and having the important conversation that should be coming up, hopefully at all convergences as we figure out how to work with hemp in a more everyday kind of way. I'm going to pass the host stick to David Algren so he can introduce us to Penny Livingston. And once again, thank you, Jacque.
Yeah,
Actually,
thank you,
go
David,
just a few
for giving me a
moments.
chance. Yeah, any questions or anything?
Yeah, why don't you guys take a few questions for a few moments? I'm working out the host thing. Shaylee left and didn't transfer it, so we gotta fix this real quick. So go ahead and take
Okay.
some questions.
Excellent.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jacque,
so
Jacque, this is Kathy and Eugene. I'm an old hemp aficionado from the 90s. I was influential in several ways in helping to
Right
get.
on. So you and Jacque Herrera.
Yeah, I know. I sold a house to his daughter, Chauncey. I'm a real estate agent here. And I know a lot of the old hemp heroes, but my latest idea is to have the International Hemp Skills Bank, including services, skills, wants, and needs, kind of an inventory of who's doing what around the world. And so I'm going to be talking to Steve D'Angelo, who has the largest venture capital for hemp in the world and the largest medical dispensary in the Bay Area. And I'm going to be talking to some other people. I've been, just collecting their names through the years, but I need some younger people to kind of carry the anchor on this. So I'd like to get in touch with you. I sent you my contact information. I'm just kathyging.com is my website, but Kathy at kathyging.com is my email. So please get in touch.
Okay.
Let's pursue this. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we need all hands on deck for this. This is a global movement, and with climate change becoming more and more relevant every day, we really need people to realize hemp is the future. To move away from deforestation for timber needs and to move into hemp for sustainable housing, for paper, for tea bags, whatever anybody has that's made with any sort of timber or cotton product. We need to move away from those and definitely push hemp. So I would love to talk to you further about that.
Bill Mollison made a statement that you can do any product or service developed by just selling futures in it. So if we collected people around the country who want to develop the hemp oak floor like they have in Kentucky, and there's the Global Hemp Innovation Center. It's been going for 2 years in OSU Corvallis, where there's 40 people working, 19 disciplines, and he showed me a piece of the hemp hardwood from Kentucky. So, we can, Kentucky's doing. Yeah, we can do this.
We can. It's
Excellent.
totally possible, and we just need more people to just want to buy the products and show their interest in it, and and that's the thing with hemp seeds. That's why I said it's the most profitable part of the hemp right now, is because you can buy hemp seeds anywhere, and that's just spreading the word that these things have much more protein than soy. These things are much better and have higher omega-3s than other nuts and stuff like that, and so just raising awareness about that, talking to all your friends about that's huge. And then of course finding investors and Kathy, it seems like some people in the Bay Area, and that's a huge hub for hemp for sure.
I love seeing these connections happen through the convergence, because that's the original point of the convergence, is for us to converge and spread contacts and resources and come together to see the changes we want. Thank you, Jacque, once again. And David, I think you are now host and ready to introduce Penny. Great.
Totally. Well,